Hello class, this is Multicultural Ministry Session 12, and this week we're talking about shared conversations. And we begin this week with a conversation around Alexis de Tocqueville, who visited America back in the early 1800s. He visited from France, was a sociologist, and he asked an interesting question. Way back then, he asked, does public charity produce an idle and dependent class of society? And so I want us to explore that question. His prediction was that somewhere in charity exists the potential for structures of dependency. So we're going to look at how that panned out for America and whether or not his predictions were right. Then from there, we move into a passage of scripture found in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, which says, "It is not good for man to be alone." And from that question, we begin to talk about the idea that we are born to form attachments. We're social people, and the importance of being social. So we're going to be looking at that from a biblical point of view. And it's important also from the standpoint of shared conversations, which is our subject for the week. If a group of people don't have a set of common beliefs when they come together, then their highest virtue would be to tolerate the beliefs of others in the group. That would be the highest value, rather than having a shared value that they can all rally around and find their camaraderie and identity around those sets of values. Instead, if they don't share values, they simply have to tolerate one another. So we'll have conversation around that, and we'll take a brief look at what it means to build community around a common cause. I want you to also remember the conversations around the topic you discussed with Dr. Viv Grigg on transformational conversations, because I think that will find a place in the conversations this week as well. We'll also take a look at the Pentecost in Acts chapter 2, that early church movement that some have called a Jesus movement, the beginning of a movement. As the beginning of the Christian movement or the church, what made it work? What made this church movement work? What made it last? But more importantly, what made it so diverse? It's spread around the world. What makes it multicultural? And are there similarities between the Jesus movement from Pentecost to where we are today and how other social movements happen? And what makes it so distinct in its diversity? It's the most diverse movement in history. So we want to look at that. We'll also revisit the idea of incarnation. Incarnation is the idea that Jesus, who is God, became infleshed with a human body and lived among us to experience life with us, to go to the cross for us, and to resurrect, conquering sin and death. What does it mean for us today? What does it look like in the church to take on a ministry of incarnation, to enflesh ourselves with the burdens and the challenges of others, to be proximal or close with and near those that we minister to? So those are some of the thoughts that we're going to have this week. The forum this week is about connecting with others. So take a look at that, read it, respond to a couple of others, and I look forward to seeing you this week. God bless.